SwayamPrabha. Digital India. Educated India.
So in this lecture, we are going to discuss about shape. From shape, we are going to another level of understanding, that is how to have the mass in that shape to create volume, and how the volume can be created by a texture that we apply on its surface. And then we are going to discuss about different surface quality and how to achieve that with texture. Texture in terms of pattern. So when we talk about texture, we think of one unit that gets repeated, and finally it's a formation that gives us a quality of a surface. Now when we talk about shape, the shape is a formation that can happen in many different ways. For example, if we think of a shape which is roundish, that can either be a circle that we are drawing on a paper or on a plain surface, where we are starting from a point. We start with a dot, and like dot is, it functions as a moving dot, it forms a line, and then we come back to the same point in a rotating order. So that gives us a sense of a circle, but that is only the contour line that we discuss. Now we can also think of different devices where we are not drawing it out. So there is another way of creating a circular form, that is if we have some material which has a particular thickness, some consistency, and then we pour that particular thing, maybe for example it's a batter that you drop from some height. So that will also come down, and after that it will get a formation that is roundish. If we have the same batter, a little more liquid, and we drop it from a higher level, then it will go there and it will create a splash-like formation. So the contour will be disturbed, but still we can get a kind of a roundish form. There is another way to get the same shape, that is if we take a dough, we pat it, so we get a bread-like shape that is also roundish. So there are many different ways to get same shape, and that is how, like when we see that we are looking and then also doing things, so we have certain form in our mind, and then when we try to make it, we take different ways to make that. Finally the output is like a roundish shape. So that way shape also gets connected to different things, like when we talk about volume, the shape is not two-dimensional anymore. It has certain mass inside it, and our job is to somehow communicate that to our viewer, or as a viewer we read it and also analyze it. So that way when we look at an object and give it a name, recognize it, or we say that that has some objectivity in it, we need to see that how we go by the process. Now what is texture? Textures are marks which are applied on a surface, and texture also indicates the quality of the surface. It tells us whether the surface is smooth or rough, shiny or dull. So there are many ways to create that surface. One is that we apply strokes. So that is some kind of a pattern that we are creating on a surface. So either this is one unit, or the entire thing can also be taken as one unit, and then by repeating the unit, we get a surface. When we have a shape which is organic, and we want to break the flatness or the two-dimensionality that the shape is having. We think in terms of making some pattern on the surface and give a sense of a volume. So what we do is we apply the texture fully or partially and get a sense of volume. So slowly we dismiss the contour line and look at it in terms of light and shade. Now if the surface is rough, the light will fall on the surface in a certain pattern. If the surface is not rough and smooth, it will fall on it directly. In a shiny surface, the light will fall and reflect back. In a dull surface, the light will fall and get absorbed. If we have a surface with a high value color, the surface will reflect some light. If it's low in its value, then it will absorb more light. When we create texture through pattern, we also take up a few policies like the surface can be created in many different ways. It can either be a dotted surface can be created, or there can be surfaces with some other pattern. We also develop a skill of pattern recognition, like when we see a surface where some patterns are repeated in many different ways. So in this pattern, we have 3 units. One is A, the other one is B, and the other one is C. For example, if we create a textured surface with A as star, B as a crescent, and C as a cross, then we will keep on replacing all the B's with crescent, and all the A's with star, and then all the C's with a cross, so by replacing A, B, C, we get a pattern that is coming in a regular interval. And upon seeing that, it will take us some time to decode this pattern. We can have this kind of formation that can be formulated in terms of a shape that is there. Now, with the shapes which are repeated here, it sometimes happens that we see that in infant prints that there are a repetition which is slightly unpredictable. So we spend time looking at them and trying to see how they're formed. It can also happen that we replace certain formation with a pattern. We have a surface. Instead of applying dark and light, we can replace the surface into quite a few forms. and rest of things can be just read on its own. So we can create a texture here. We want some part to be darker. We can repeat the same formation from a different order to make it darker. We can have another layer which is lighter than this. So the proximity between the vertical and horizontal lines will be lesser. We want some part to be even more light. So we'll use another texture where the proximity between white and black and the horizontal vertical line will be even more. So the texture will be creating a sense of volume on a surface. Similarly, when we think in terms of light and dark, or we convert it into some color, we can also create a surface which is very colorful. So we can use more than one pattern to give it a sense of volume. So it's a textured surface with some warm color. Let's replace it with some cool color. We can also have surface with some particular pattern that are inspired by nature. Here we are combining cool color and warm color together. The warm color, of course, it has a tendency to come closer. The cool color will push it back. A more decorative formation will be something like this. So pattern and formation ultimately helps us to give a sense of volume to a surface. Now, when we think of a formation, we think in terms of the proximity of different textures. So we do not need to necessarily fill up a surface, but by repeating a pattern, we can create depth, we can create mid-tones, we can create areas which are even lighter, and that will connect to the three-dimensionality of the surface. So finally, visual distance is also a very big factor as far as texture is concerned. There are certain surfaces which are rough, but if we see it from a distance, then it appears to be smooth. Upon coming closer, we get to see the detail of the surface, all the roughness, all the deformities and ups and downs, they can be seen properly. So it all depends on our focal capacity, the visual capacity and the visual distance. But this is for sure that the surface quality can also confuse us to certain level that we ultimately create a surface which is paper or cloth or anything of that type, but we can always give it a sense of metal, or even a water surface can be created there. We can do whatever we feel like. So it's all about the illusion that we are creating through the strokes that we are applying and the pattern that we are following. And this is also known that the more prompt we are in reading a pattern, the more intelligent we are. So analyzing a visual is all about how prompt we are, how fast we are in reading a pattern and decoding the pattern. So as we know, the word design itself means decoding sign. With that, we'll move to our next chapter when we are going to talk about the different kind of textures. They're basically the different sensation and different use that are correspondent to that.